Welcome to Field Goals and Academic Roles, the podcast that explores student-athlete life on the field and in the classroom. Today, we look at how athletes balance their busy lives during exam season. I'm your host, Olivia Elliott.
And I'm your co-host, Lee Jeffries. Final season is busy for everyone, but I can only imagine it'd be even busier for someone in season on a sports team. I mean, you've got practice how many times a day, including workouts, plus a strict diet regimen, and that doesn't include going to classes or studying. And what about aspects of your personal life? Social life and self-care take up time too.
According to an interview done by WebMD, the average person needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and athletes need about 1 more hour. Just like with calories, you're expending more energy, so you need more time to recover.
While this is true, even professional athletes are known to not get sufficient rest. In an experiment cited by PubMed, they found that only 3% of athletes in the experiment obtained enough sleep to satisfy their self-assessed sleep need, and 71% of athletes fell short by an hour or more. The athletes needed about 8 hours of sleep to feel rested. Their average sleep duration was a little under 7 hours, and they had a sleep deficit index of an hour and a half. The majority of elite athletes obtained substantially less than their self-assessed sleep need. The article says that insufficient sleep may compromise an athlete's capacity to train effectively and/or compete optimally.
Another article from PubMed stated that athletes who slept less than 8 hours per night on average were 2 times more likely to have had an injury compared with athletes who slept for more than 8 hours.
There are 24 hours in a day. The average athlete takes 12 credit hours? That's like having 2 to 3 hours of class a day. And you're supposed to study for about 2 hours for every hour you're in class. So at the end of the day, you have about 10 hours left to go to practice, meetings, training, lunch check-ins, eat, and get from place to place. That sounds like a lot of time, but when it takes about 15 minutes to get across campus, those little things add up.
We actually got to hear from some athletes about what those days look like.
So I wake up at 5:30 a.m. to get to practice by 6, and then we have team meetings, position meetings, and then that ends about 11 o'clock, and then I either have a lift or I have class to go to, and then I take a little nap, and then I have film at 5 o'clock till about 7, and then I eat my dinner, and then we go to sleep.
That was Cameron Kelly, a senior football player and psychology major.
So from 5:30 to 11, he's doing straight sports. That's like 5.5 hours. Then he has more sports stuff from 5 to 7. So in total, Cam's dedicating like 8 hours to football.
Out of those 10 hours we talked about, that leaves 2 hours for him to nap, socialize, eat, and get from one place to another. That's crazy.
But that was assuming that they were getting enough sleep.
I say 6 to 7 hours. I don't get the full 8, but I think it's a pretty good amount for me as my body adjusted to it over time.
We also spoke with Kirsten Tomasi.
I've noticed that one thing for me that's super important is sleep. And I've noticed, like, if I don't get a lot of sleep the next day at practice or in a game, I notice a significant drop-off in my play. And so if I have a really important assignment due, I have to decide, okay, am I going to finish this assignment or just kind of like take the L and go to sleep so that I can play well at practice and then not lose playing time in games? I try to get like 7.5, 8 hours of sleep every night. And where I notice like the biggest drop off is if I have like 5 or 6, it's like literally night and day. I can see like my reaction times in practice aren't as quick. My touch on the ball is like just different. It's just, you wouldn't think that it would be as obvious as it is, but I really notice a difference.
Then we spoke to soccer player Matthew Sinanu, who also only sleeps 6 hours.
So I usually wake up at 6:30 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays it'll be at 7 a.m. I wake up an hour before training, so I have 7:30 training on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 8 o'clock on Thursdays and Tuesdays. And after training, I usually go to the football stadium, Loudermilk, and get some post-training food. And then from there, I'll go back to my apartment and then probably make a little bit of breakfast, head to class. So between my classes, I'll go to Stallings, which is our recovery place, and I'll usually go in, do an ice bath, hot tub, and then maybe do some foam rolling out or maybe get some treatment if I'm injured. And then from there, I'll go back to my classes, and then I'll just head home, relax for the day, do some homework, and then usually be in bed by around 10 o'clock.
That's a pretty busy day.
And that's not even taking into account extra studying during finals.
I think as the season goes on, I start to prioritize academics a little bit more than athletics. I think when you're in preseason, everything you're thinking about is just your sport, and so when the year starts, you are in that mindset. But as the classes go on, and then they get a little bit harder, you gotta focus more on academics. So that's usually what I do.
Then, speaking from a senior perspective, do you feel like in the past you struggled with having finals and balancing the sport?
Yes, I definitely have, but also especially in the season because we're traveling, so much film study, practice, lifts. In the middle of all that and trying to focus on the test is very hard, but we have student athlete exam exemptions that allows us to make up the exam on another day, so that's very beneficial for us.
Not only are a lot of student athletes in season during finals week, but they're also preparing for big tournaments and championships.
Absolutely. So we missed pretty much a whole week of school for both the ACC championship and NCAA travel for postseason. And then I just missed a couple days of class here and there for other travel. And I ended up honestly falling behind in a couple of my classes just because when you're on the road, it's really hard to find time to sit down and do your work because no matter where you are, if it's a hotel lobby or wherever it may be, it's really hard for me to focus and sit down and do the work. And then also when you're on away trips, you're pretty much at you're very easily accessible to your coaches and your teammates. So team meetings can pop up quickly, or going to get food at a restaurant with your teammates, all that kind of stuff just pops up and makes it hard. It makes it hard to find quiet time to settle down and do your work. So then it's really easy to end up falling behind. And so by missing class and then also not being able to stay on top of the work that I already had, it's really stressful. So I'm a little worried. I have some material that I have to catch up on for these finals coming up.
I think sometimes we forget that student athletes are both students and athletes.
No, definitely. They actually go here. They're here to get an education too. Do you feel like you're at university to play or study or both?
I'm definitely at my university to do both. It's just sports are there, academics is more longevity. And, once sports are all said and done, I have to rely on my knowledge and schooling for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so I think honestly athletes kind of get a bad rep just because a lot of people oh, they're only here because of the sport that they play, and okay, sure, our sports might help us get into the school, but nonetheless we take our academics very seriously. And so if we seem like we're slacking off or whatever, it's not that, it's that we're exhausted from all the travel and all the games and just how brutal college sports can be on your body. And then it's hard to stay up to date in school when you're traveling and constantly in meetings and whatever it may be. So it's not that we're not taking school seriously or anything like that. It's just it's hard to stay caught up, and we're doing our absolute best. So
while balancing everything is clearly a challenge, the athletes we spoke to feel like the university is supporting them.
I think they're doing the best job they can. We get tutors, we get all the necessary resources, but I just say the professors can be more understanding, especially with travel and their injuries, but not all professors are the same.
I know that some of the guys, before I got here, they had College Cup, and they had to do finals. They had to do finals in the hotel, an hour before they had to play in the semifinal of the national tournament. So I think there should be more flexibility with athletes. I think the UNC's already done a good job in some ways with allowing flexibility with athletes traveling or not being available for a test. But I don't really have the answer for what they could specifically do to make it easier for us. But I know that there still needs more to be done.
Unsurprisingly, mental health was cited to be one of the more important aspects athletes have to look after.
The mental health aspect of a student athlete is very important because our schedule, our work overload is just crazy and it's overwhelming. And I'm just glad to see people starting to take notice of that. They they just treat us like athletes, but they forget that we're students and we're human too as well. We're just not guinea pigs running around just for your entertainment. We're also people, and people don't understand the stress that's put on us and the stress that's put on us by exterior forces outside of academics and sports, such as families, friends. And I just think people need to take into account that and, show more love to the student athletes in their mental space and just be more accepting of that. And that's it.
Athletes definitely have a lot going on, like any student. So we encourage everyone listening to make sure they're eating enough nutritious food, getting enough sleep, studying productively, and making sure they take time for their mental health.
Because as Matthew said,
I know that it's all worth it. I just had to get through it.
Reporting from UNC Chapel Hill were Lee Jeffries
and Olivia Elliott on field goals and academic roles.